24 hours inside LA County Jail. Gangs, overcrowding, and survival in America's toughest jail system. The Gatekeeper, First Impressions of LA County Jail. As the heavy metal doors screech open, Marcus Hale * takes his first steps into a world where time moves differently, slow, suffocating, and never quite in your control. The gates close behind him with a finality that feels like a life sentence. The air in the processing room is thick, stale, and suffused with the pungent odor of sweat, disinfectant, and desperation. His shoes scrape against the cold linoleum floor, and for a moment, it feels like he's walking through a nightmare. He's been here before, but today is different. Today, the nightmare feels real. LA County Jail, or simply, Twin Towers, looms over him, a sprawling complex of concrete, steel, and barbed wire, designed to house more than 5,000 inmates. But that's just the official number. In reality, over the years, the jail has become a pressure cooker, bursting at the seams with overcrowding. It's a system that operates under constant tension, where every hallway is a battleground, every corner hides potential danger, and survival isn't just a matter of toughness, it's about knowing how to navigate the web of gangs, power struggles, and the threat of violence that permeates every inch of this place. Marcus' mind races as he's led down a narrow hallway, the sound of his footsteps echoing off the walls. He's been arrested before, but never in a place like this. The guards, who move like automatons, barely acknowledge him. They've seen it all: violent offenders, petty criminals, and gang members fighting for control over this hellhole. For them, Marcus is just another number, another face in the sea of broken people who are swallowed by this unforgiving system. Strip down. All your belongings go in that box, a guard barks at him, motioning to a small, clear plastic bin on a nearby counter. The next few minutes are a blur. Clothes off. Body checked. A quick, impersonal search that leaves Marcus feeling violated, but he knows better than to react. This is the beginning of his 24-hour odyssey, a journey through one of the most notorious jails in the United States, where survival is a game, and the stakes are high. The overcrowding crisis. As Marcus is led deeper into the bowels of the facility, he can feel the weight of LA County Jail's overcrowding bearing down on him. The population far exceeds the jail's capacity, and the result is chaos. The once stable system that was supposed to segregate inmates based on their crime, gang affiliation, or security risk has long since failed. Instead, you have a volatile mix of hardened criminals, first-timers, and the mentally unstable, all crammed together in this overcrowded concrete maze. According to a report from the LA County Board of Supervisors, the jail's overcrowding has reached critical levels. In some areas, inmates are stacked 3 to a cell, often with no more than a narrow metal cot, a toilet, and a broken window. The guards are understaffed, and the system is overwhelmed, leaving it vulnerable to exploitation by gangs who control the inner workings of the jail. Marcus knows the game, he's seen it on the streets. Gangs are everywhere, controlling not only the flow of illegal items but also the distribution of favors, protection, and even food. In LA County Jail, it's all about alliances. The right connections can make your life easier, but cross the wrong person, and you're as good as dead. Eyes forward, a guard snaps as they enter a holding area. The steel bars clang shut behind them, and Marcus is finally thrown into the holding tank. The air is thick with the smell of fear, sweat, and the faint trace of marijuana. Several inmates eye him warily as he's led to a corner, but no one speaks. Not yet. The gangs, the hidden kingdoms. In the holding tank, Marcus can already feel the tension. It's a game of survival, and he's just a rookie trying to navigate a world where trust is scarce, and loyalty is everything. He has no friends here, no backup, just the clothes on his back and the knowledge of what it takes to survive. He's immediately reminded of the gangs that run this place, the Crips, the Bloods, the Surenos, and others. Every cell block has its own gang factions, each claiming territory and controlling the activities of those within. Inmates who refuse to align themselves with one of these groups quickly find themselves isolated, targeted, or worse, used as pawns in gang power plays. Marcus' history on the outside hasn't involved direct gang affiliation, but everyone in the system knows the rules. You can either pick a side, or you can be crushed under the weight of the power struggles. That's the reality for anyone entering LA County Jail. He's noticed the first signs already, an exchange of nods, a silent acknowledgement of territory, the subtle gestures that tell him where he stands in this hierarchy. The older inmates, those who've spent years inside, move with a confidence that comes from knowing the game. They don't talk much, but their eyes scan everything. The new blood is the most vulnerable. As Marcus sits in the corner, trying to blend in, an older inmate, a heavy-set man with a tattoo of a teardrop under his left eye, walks past. He gives Marcus a once-over before stopping. "You're new," the man says, his voice low but carrying an unmistakable edge of authority. Marcus nods, keeping his head low. He knows this is the moment. The way he responds, or doesn't respond, could determine how the next few hours go. "I'm good," Marcus mutters. "Just trying to lay low." The man eyes him for a moment before nodding. "Smart move. Ain't no place for weak links around here. Keep your mouth shut, and you'll be fine. For now." Marcus watches as the man walks off, disappearing into the crowd of inmates. It's clear that this is a place ruled by unspoken rules, where strength is measured in silence and survival is a constant calculation. A dangerous game. As the hours drag on, Marcus is shuffled into a larger holding area. The noise is deafening now, shouts, laughter, and the occasional clash of metal. But what stands out the most is the palpable sense of unease that seems to infect everyone. Every conversation, every glance, every word spoken could be a trigger for violence. Marcus tries to remember everything he's been told: keep your head down, don't get involved in other people's business, and never, under any circumstances, show fear. It's not about physical strength, it's about knowing how to move, how to blend in, how to become invisible when necessary. The clock on the wall ticks steadily as the hours pass. He has no idea when or if he'll be moved to a permanent cell, but he knows that his survival in this place will depend on the choices he makes in the coming hours. He watches as the gangs begin to move through the holding area, engaging in whispered conversations, marking their territories. The game is about to begin, and Marcus must decide whether to play by their rules or face the consequences of ignoring them. The sound of the guards' boots echoes down the hallway, signaling another shift. Marcus steels himself for what's coming next, because in LA County Jail, nothing stays calm for long. Survival on the inside, the prison yard. The fluorescent lights overhead flicker intermittently, casting long shadows across the cold, concrete walls of the holding area. Marcus Hale watches them in silence, the light making his surroundings feel even more claustrophobic than they already are. Time has begun to stretch out, each minute blending into the next, like a relentless tide that refuses to retreat. There's a low hum in the air, a constant buzzing sound that comes from the overhead ventilation system, mingling with the muffled voices of the inmates as they talk, shout, and argue in various corners of the holding pen. He's been here for a few hours now, but it feels like days. His body is still adjusting to the rhythm of life inside LA County Jail, a place where every sound, every movement, is amplified by the tension that saturates the air. It's not just about surviving physically, it's about knowing how to navigate the social dynamics, how to avoid attracting attention, and how to stay out of the line of fire. That's where most new inmates fail. They underestimate the psychological toll that this place takes, the way it bends you until you break. "Hey, new guy," a voice calls out, pulling Marcus from his thoughts. He looks up to see a tall man with a shaved head, heavily tattooed arms, and a grim expression staring at him from across the room. The tattoos on his neck form a jagged line that looks like barbed wire, a clear marker of his affiliation. Marcus knows the look, it's a common feature among those who've spent years in this place. "Yeah." Marcus answers, trying to keep his voice steady. He's learned quickly that showing hesitation or fear will get you labeled as weak. "You're gonna wanna get outta here soon," the man says, his eyes scanning the room before focusing back on Marcus. This is the holding tank. You'll be outta here soon enough, but when you hit the yard, you better know where you stand. Marcus nods slowly, sensing the unspoken warning in the man's tone. The yard, the place where everything happens, where alliances are formed, and where lives are decided. It's where the gangs rule, and where the true battle for survival begins. The guards continue their rounds, moving like silent shadows, their eyes alert but passive. They've seen everything: drug deals, violent altercations, riots, and murders. In this place, nothing surprises them. For Marcus, it's not just the fear of being surrounded by hardened criminals, it's the suffocating sense of powerlessness that comes with knowing there is no escape. There are no walls high enough to keep the violence out of your life. It's all around you, in every glance, every word, every transaction that happens in the dark corners of the jail. The first move, the walk to the yard. As the hours drag on, Marcus is finally called to move. The guards file him and the other new inmates out of the holding area and down a series of narrow, stark hallways. The walls are covered in grime and the air is thick with the smell of sweat and the occasional whiff of urine. He's shuffled into a large, open area that feels more like a cage than a yard. Tall fencing and razor wire line the perimeter, giving the whole space a claustrophobic feeling. The prison yard isn't like the ones he's seen in movies, no basketball courts or exercise equipment. This is a concrete expanse filled with hardened criminals, each man marking his territory, staking his claim to the small piece of the world he still controls. Gangs move like packs of wolves, eyes scanning, muscles tensed, always on alert. Marcus can feel the intensity in the air as he steps into the yard, surrounded by men who have been here for years, some for their entire lives. A few inmates glance his way as he walks through the yard, their eyes cold and calculating. Marcus keeps his head down, his pace steady, but his mind races. He's learned quickly that every move counts here, every glance, every word. The wrong one could get him killed. As he walks, he can feel the weight of the gang factions around him. The Surenos, with their tattoos of blue and white, moving in packs, their presence like a storm that cannot be ignored. The Crips, their distinctive blue bandanas hanging from pockets and necks, their faces hardened by years of violence. And the Bloods, marked by their red insignia, holding court in a corner of the yard, eyes scanning the room for any sign of weakness. "Yo, new guy," a voice calls out from behind him. Marcus turns to find a smaller man, wiry but with eyes that are far too sharp for his size. The man is wearing a simple gray jumpsuit, but there's something about his posture, something that tells Marcus he's not just another inmate. The man steps closer, his face hard, but not unfriendly. "You gonna pick a side, or you just gonna stay neutral?" he asks, his voice low but carrying an undeniable edge. "You can't stay out of this shit forever." Marcus swallows, trying to calm his racing heart. He knows what the man is asking, what everyone is asking. In here, you pick a side, or you become a target. There's no middle ground. "I'm just here to survive," Marcus replies, trying to keep his tone neutral. He's not stupid, he knows that whatever he says next will determine how things go from here on out. The man chuckles, the sound harsh and sharp. "Survive? You can survive, but not in here, not without picking a side. You're gonna need protection. You don't want to end up like some of these fools." Marcus nods, but inside, he feels a wave of dread wash over him. This is it, the moment of decision. He's not ready to join any gang, not yet, but the pressure is mounting, and he can feel it in the air. He looks around the yard, watching the factions interact, each gang maintaining their own space, their own rules. There's a clear divide in the yard, a delicate balance of power that Marcus knows he can't ignore. As the day drags on, Marcus starts to see the unspoken hierarchy play out in front of him. The gangs, their territories marked not just by tattoos but by the way they move and interact. The Surenos, who dominate the western side of the yard, their faces hardened and stoic, watching everyone with suspicion. The Crips, who control the center, their gang signs and colors worn like armor, always ready to fight if challenged. And the Bloods, holding their ground in the east, their movements swift and purposeful. In this place, everything is a transaction, a trade of power, loyalty, and survival. Marcus can see it already, the way the gangs barter for favors, for protection, for influence. The guards, with their indifference, do little to stop it. It's all part of the system, a system that thrives on control and fear. The first test. As the sun begins to set, the yard starts to empty. The inmates are shuffled back into their cells, and the tension begins to ease. Marcus is led to a small holding area where he's told to wait for his cell assignment. As he sits on the cold concrete floor, he can't help but think about the man's words. He needs to make a decision, and he needs to make it fast. In a place like this, hesitation can be fatal. The sounds of the jail start to settle into a dull hum, the rattling of doors, the shuffling of feet, the occasional shouted curse. But even in the relative quiet, Marcus can feel the weight of the place pressing down on him. He's not just inside a prison, he's inside a system that thrives on fear, on power struggles, and on survival. And now, he's part of it. As the guards move in and out, taking notes on the new arrivals, Marcus catches sight of a figure in the shadows. It's the man who spoke to him earlier, the one who warned him about picking a side. The man's eyes lock onto his, and for a brief moment, Marcus feels the weight of his gaze, a silent challenge hanging in the air. This is the first test, Marcus knows it. He has to decide who he's going to be in this place. Will he stay neutral, try to avoid getting involved? Or will he take the risk, pick a side, and fight for his survival? The decision is coming. And when it comes, there's no going back. The unseen battles, power, loyalty, and the price of survival. The night in LA County Jail is always a different beast. As the overhead lights flicker out, the concrete hallways grow darker, but the tension in the air only intensifies. The sounds of distant voices echo down the long, narrow corridors, men shouting, banging on doors, murmuring in hushed tones about deals made and broken, power struggles, and allegiances that shift like sand. For Marcus Hale *, it's the beginning of a new reality. The constant hum of the fluorescent lights is replaced by the unsettling silence that settles in once the doors are locked. Outside his small cell, the world continues to pulse with the rhythm of chaos. For the first time in hours, Marcus can hear his own heartbeat, a steady reminder that he's now part of a machine that will grind him down unless he finds a way to survive. He lies on a thin mattress, staring at the cracks in the ceiling. The bed is hard, uncomfortable, an alien sensation for someone used to the comfort of a bed back home. But here, comfort is a luxury. Survival is the only currency that matters. Gang allegiances and the price of loyalty. Marcus can already feel the weight of the decision pressing down on him. The man from the yard, the one with the tattooed neck, had made it clear, he had to choose. No one survives in LA County Jail without picking a side. It's a place where loyalty is the currency that buys protection, food, and power. Without it, you're just another lost soul waiting for the inevitable. As he lays in the dim light of his cell, Marcus starts to consider the options. The Surenos, the Crips, and the Bloods, the three dominant factions in this prison. Each group controls its own territories within the jail, from the yard to the mess hall to the administrative offices. Power is drawn from control of the supply lines, of information, of alliances, and, most importantly, control over who lives and who dies. In LA County Jail, it's not just about crime, it's about the survival of the fittest. The gangs that run this place don't just fight for dominance. They fight for the right to dictate who has power and who is relegated to the fringes. To be a part of one of these gangs means protection, but it also means obeying the unspoken rules that govern every interaction. The Surenos, led by older inmates who have been in the system for years, hold sway over much of the jail. Their blue colors are worn like a badge of honor, and their numbers are vast. They've been a dominant force in California for decades, and inside LA County Jail, they run the show. But with power comes its own set of rules, loyalty above all else, and a willingness to do whatever it takes to maintain the status quo. Marcus knows that aligning with them could bring safety, but it would come at a cost, one he's not sure he's ready to pay. Then there's the Crips, another powerhouse, their influence stretching far beyond the confines of LA County. They control the center of the yard, a coveted space where the majority of the jail's activities take place. The Crips are known for their ruthlessness, their ability to command respect without speaking a word. Their blue bandanas and tattoos are symbols of their strength, and crossing them is almost certain death. But they also have a certain code, one that values strength, respect, and survival above all else. And then, in the east corner of the yard, Marcus notices the Bloods. Smaller in number but no less dangerous, the Bloods are a force to be reckoned with. They wear their red colors like a uniform, marking their territory wherever they go. The Bloods are known for their tight-knit structure, a hierarchy that's as rigid as it is brutal. Loyalty to the gang is absolute, and any sign of weakness is quickly exploited. The Bloods' power lies in their unity, and their willingness to fight anyone who dares to challenge them. For Marcus, the decision feels like a trap. He doesn't belong to any of these groups. He came to LA County Jail without a gang affiliation, hoping to make it through his time unscathed. But in this place, not choosing is as dangerous as choosing the wrong side. Without protection, without the backing of a powerful faction, he knows he'll be targeted. And in a place like this, targets don't last long. The psychological toll, the weight of violence. As Marcus wrestles with the decision, he begins to notice the psychological toll of the prison on the inmates around him. In LA County Jail, violence isn't just a physical reality, it's a mental one. The constant fear of being targeted, the endless power struggles, the pressure to conform to the rules of the gangs, these things weigh on the mind like a vice. The men who've been here the longest, the ones who walk with the kind of swagger that comes from years of surviving in this hellhole, have all had their minds warped by the system. They don't trust easily, and they don't show weakness. Inmates who come in with soft hearts or an open mind are quickly hardened by the brutality of the system. They learn to survive by becoming as ruthless as the world around them. Marcus sees it in their eyes, the deadness that comes from being inside for too long. It's a survival mechanism, a way of shielding themselves from the constant violence and oppression. But it's also what makes them dangerous. They've been broken by this place, and the only thing that keeps them from completely falling apart is their loyalty to their gang, their ability to remain in control. A conversation with the veteran, the first step toward survival. The next day, Marcus is called out of his cell. He's led down a narrow hallway and through a steel door into a small room where an older inmate is waiting for him. The man has a weathered face, his skin marked by years of tattoos that tell stories of his life inside the system. His eyes are sharp, but there's a kind of resignation to them, like someone who's seen everything and doesn't expect much to change. "I heard you're looking to survive in here," the man says, his voice low but clear. "Well, you're gonna have to make a choice. You can't just float around like you don't belong. They'll eat you alive." Marcus nods, his stomach tightening. This man, he realizes, is one of the veterans, the ones who've been in the system long enough to know how the game is played. "I haven't made up my mind yet," Marcus says quietly. The man smiles, but it's not a kind smile. "You don't get time for that. The longer you wait, the more you'll be seen as weak. And in here, weakness is a death sentence." Marcus swallows. He knows the truth in the man's words. There's no time to hesitate. He needs to make a move before someone makes it for him. "Who's in charge around here?" Marcus asks, trying to sound casual. "Which gang should I join?" The veteran leans back in his chair, his hands folding over his chest. "It's not about which gang you join. It's about who you're willing to fight for. The Crips, the Bloods, the Surenos, they all have power, but it's all about loyalty. You're either loyal to them or you're loyal to yourself. And in here, that's the hardest choice you'll ever make." Marcus thinks about this for a moment. Loyalty. It's a word that's thrown around a lot, but what does it really mean in this place? Who can he trust? And who will he have to betray to stay alive? The moment of decision, choosing a side. As the conversation with the veteran ends, Marcus is left alone with his thoughts. The decision weighs on him like a ton of bricks. He's not sure he's ready to pick a side, but in LA County Jail, the choice is made for you by the actions of others. He knows the clock is ticking. He's seen the signs, the looks exchanged between the gang members on the yard. He's watched the way they move, the subtle power plays, the constant jockeying for position. The gangs are not just groups of criminals, they are ecosystems, with their own laws, customs, and survival tactics. And Marcus knows that if he wants to survive, he has to understand the game. But understanding it is one thing. Playing it is another. Marcus's thoughts are interrupted by the sound of the guards calling for him to return to his cell. The weight of the decision still hangs in the air, unanswered. But Marcus knows he's running out of time. Tomorrow, things will be different. Tomorrow, he will have to make his move. Power plays, the politics of prison. The sound of the steel doors slamming shut behind him is the loudest noise Marcus Hale has heard since his arrival. Each clang reverberates in his ears like a death knell, a constant reminder that there is no going back now. This isn't the world he knew, this is the world of LA County Jail, and survival is a game played with a deadly seriousness. The following day, the full reality of life behind bars begins to crystallize. No matter how much he tries to hold on to his sense of self, he is quickly learning that LA County Jail is a world where loyalty is the currency, and the price of admission is steep. He can already feel the pressure of the decision that awaits him. Every moment is another step towards the inevitable confrontation, the moment when he must align himself with one of the prison's dominant gangs or risk becoming a target. He's learned to keep his head low, stay out of trouble, and observe. In a place like this, knowledge is power, and Marcus knows that the more he understands the inner workings of the jail, the better chance he has of surviving. The rise of the Surenos, a web of power. The Surenos, those who align themselves with the Southern California gangs, often with ties to the infamous Mexican Mafia, are the largest and most powerful gang faction in LA County Jail. Their influence extends far beyond the prison walls, reaching into the streets of Los Angeles and beyond. In here, however, they run the yard. They control the movements of the inmates, dictate who gets to eat, and even determine who gets protection. The Surenos have their hands in every corner of this place, from the drug trade to the distribution of favors. They are not a group to be underestimated. Marcus can feel their presence everywhere. The blue bandanas are a common sight, worn proudly by Sureno members as a sign of solidarity and strength. The men who wear them carry themselves with a confidence that can only come from knowing they have the upper hand. The Surenos move in packs, their loyalty to one another as strong as their desire to maintain control. "Watch the Surenos," the veteran inmate had told Marcus when he first entered the yard. "They rule the place. If you don't want to get caught in the crossfire, you better make sure you understand how they operate." As the days go by, Marcus watches the Surenos closely, taking note of their tactics. They don't just dominate through violence, they dominate through strategy. Their leaders are smart, calculating, and ruthless. They don't waste energy on unnecessary fights, they pick their battles carefully, making sure every move counts. And when they strike fast and hard. The Surenos operate like a well-oiled machine. There's a hierarchy, but it's not as rigid as some of the other gangs. Newcomers are often given a chance to prove themselves, to show their loyalty before they're fully accepted into the fold. But Marcus knows that loyalty isn't enough. To be truly accepted, you have to earn their trust, and that can only be done through actions, not words. As Marcus observes them, he starts to realize something: the Surenos aren't just a gang. They're a family. They have each other's backs, and that bond is what keeps them in control. It's a loyalty that runs deep, a loyalty that is tested and proven through bloodshed and sacrifice. The Crips and Bloods, the rivalry that defines the yard. Not far from the Surenos, in the opposite corners of the yard, stand the Crips and the Bloods, two of the most well-known gangs in America, locked in a battle that has spanned decades. In LA County Jail, their rivalry is alive and well, simmering just beneath the surface, ready to explode at any moment. The Crips, with their signature blue colors and intimidating presence, are a force to be reckoned with. They've long been associated with gang violence, drug dealing, and control over the streets of LA. Inside the prison walls, the Crips carry the same reputation: fierce, loyal, and unyielding. But the Bloods, the red-clad adversaries of the Crips, are no less dangerous. Their rivalry with the Crips is legendary, and the tension between the two gangs can be felt in every corner of the yard. The Bloods are smaller in number compared to the Surenos and Crips, but they've carved out their own space within the prison system, commanding respect through sheer force of will and a code of loyalty that rivals the Surenos. The relationship between the Crips and Bloods is one of perpetual warfare. They have been enemies for so long that any attempt at peace is seen as a betrayal. In LA County Jail, that hostility is magnified, with each gang trying to outdo the other, to claim control over the yard and the prisoners within it. For Marcus, this rivalry presents a challenge. He knows that getting involved in this ongoing war could be the end of him, especially if he chooses the wrong side. The Crips and Bloods are locked in a deadly dance, and anyone caught in the middle risks becoming a casualty of their war. Power shifts and political games, choosing your loyalty. As Marcus spends more time in the jail, he begins to see the political games at play. The dynamics of prison life are not just about brute strength, they're about influence, negotiation, and the ability to manipulate situations to your advantage. Every gang, every faction, every inmate has a role to play in this carefully constructed ecosystem. One of the most important lessons Marcus learns is how to read the room. He watches how the Surenos, Crips, and Bloods interact with one another. The subtle gestures, the glances, the way they position themselves on the yard, all of it is a carefully crafted game of power. Marcus knows that if he's going to survive, he has to learn how to play this game too. He starts to notice the little things, the way the Surenos give orders to the other inmates, the way the Crips and Bloods exchange passive-aggressive jabs from across the yard, and the way the guards subtly turn a blind eye when certain inmates break the rules. In LA County Jail, the rules are simple: follow the strongest, obey the most powerful, and never show weakness. But Marcus doesn't want to just survive. He wants to make it out of this place in one piece. To do that, he has to make a choice. He can't continue to sit on the sidelines and watch. He needs to pick a side, and the decision will define the rest of his time inside. The pressure is mounting. Marcus knows that in a place like this, time is never on your side. The longer you wait, the more dangerous the situation becomes. Gangs can smell hesitation. They can smell fear. And once you're labeled as weak, there's no going back. The first strike, a test of loyalty. The day Marcus finally decides to make his move comes sooner than expected. It happens on the yard, as he's walking back from the mess hall. A commotion erupts near the basketball court, where a group of inmates from different factions have gathered. At first, Marcus thinks it's just another fight, but then he sees it: the sudden surge of bodies, the harsh shouts, and the unmistakable sound of fists colliding with flesh. The Crips and Surenos have clashed. Marcus's heart races as he watches the two groups collide in the middle of the yard, the tension between them finally reaching its breaking point. The sound of shuffling feet and grunts fills the air, and for a moment, everything else fades into the background. This is it, the moment when survival becomes a matter of life or death. Marcus stands frozen, unsure of what to do. But then, from the corner of his eye, he sees it: the opportunity. A gang member from the Surenos is standing just a few feet away, watching the chaos unfold. The man's eyes lock onto Marcus's, and in that moment, Marcus understands what he has to do. He walks toward him, slow and deliberate, making sure not to break eye contact. The Sureno member nods slightly, a silent acknowledgement of the choice Marcus is making. He doesn't say a word, but Marcus knows what it means. This is his moment to prove himself, to make the move that will either earn him the protection of the Surenos, or cost him his life. As the fight rages around them, Marcus steps forward, his mind racing. He knows that this is the moment when everything changes. The political game of prison is no longer a passive observation, it's his turn to play. The consequences of loyalty, surviving the night. The sudden rush of adrenaline is a heady mix. Marcus Hale can feel his heart pounding in his chest as he steps forward, his shoes scraping against the cold concrete. His eyes lock with the Sureno member across the yard, the brief nod from the man feeling like a silent contract, one that will either save him or seal his fate. In the chaos of the brawl between the Crips and Surenos, everything feels amplified. The shouts, the thud of fists on flesh, the distant sound of the guards calling for backup, each noise a reminder of how quickly things can spiral out of control in LA County Jail. The decision is made, and now there's no turning back. Marcus doesn't even need to hear the words from the Sureno member's mouth, he knows what's at stake. A quick glance to his left shows a handful of Crips circling the brawl, watching the Surenos closely. They, too, are calculating their next move, weighing the risk and reward of being involved. But Marcus isn't concerned with them now, his focus is on the man in front of him, the person who's offering him a chance to survive, a chance to claim some small semblance of power in this brutal world. "Get in line," the Sureno member mutters as he starts walking towards a small, less crowded corner of the yard. "You're either with us, or you're not. No middle ground here." Marcus follows without hesitation, his footsteps matching the rhythm of the Surenos. It's a strange thing, this feeling of being part of something bigger than himself, of aligning with a faction in a world that doesn't offer much more than survival. But the closer he gets, the more he realizes that this isn't just about survival. It's about belonging. For the first time since entering the gates of LA County Jail, Marcus feels a sense of security. The Surenos aren't just a gang, they're a brotherhood, a network of men who have endured the same trials and tribulations of the system. And they're offering him protection. The quiet before the storm, building trust. The following days pass in a blur. Marcus quickly learns that in LA County Jail, the concept of time is warped. Days drag into nights, and each one feels the same. Except for the moments when the gang dynamics shift, when power plays are made, or when loyalties are tested. Being with the Surenos gives him an unexpected sense of belonging. He's no longer just a new inmate struggling to find his footing. He's part of a system that has been in place for years, and while that doesn't mean he's safe, it does mean he has a chance to learn the rules. There's a rhythm to life now, one he didn't understand at first. The morning roll call. The brief moments when the inmates are allowed to exercise in the yard. The constant interactions with the guards, who are often either indifferent or hostile. But what strikes him most is the unspoken language of the gang members, the way they communicate through glances, subtle hand gestures, and quiet conversations in the corners of the yard. It's a dance of dominance, and Marcus is learning how to move within it. He spends most of his time in the yard, observing, learning. The Surenos, as expected, control the bulk of the yard. But it's not just physical power they wield, it's psychological control. They watch the other factions, calculating who can be trusted and who is a threat. They're experts at maintaining control over the other gangs without having to engage in direct violence. They know how to play the game. In the evenings, when the yard empties out and the cells fill up with the echoes of restless men, Marcus is taken aside by one of the senior Surenos, an older man named Miguel who has been inside for nearly 2 decades. Miguel has the air of someone who has seen it all and survived it all. His face is marked by age, but his eyes are sharp and calculating. "Listen, Marcus," Miguel says, his voice low but firm. "In here, you either rise or you fall. You've made your choice, but that doesn't mean it's over. This place, this whole system, it's all about power. You want to keep it, you have to prove it every day." Miguel's words are a sharp reminder of the brutal reality of prison life. The stakes aren't just high, they're constant. In a place like LA County Jail, there's no moment of peace, no respite from the pressure of having to survive. Every day is a battle. And every decision, whether it's an alliance, a confrontation, or a calculated silence, can either protect you or bury you. The breaking point, confrontation in the yard. A week passes before Marcus faces his first real test. It happens in the yard, as it always does in a place like this. The usual groups are clustered together, the Surenos along the western side, the Crips in the center, the Bloods in their corner. But this time, something's different. The tension in the air is palpable, as if a storm is brewing. Marcus notices it immediately, the way the Crips are looking at the Surenos, the way the Bloods are positioning themselves on the outskirts of the yard. The game is changing, and Marcus knows it. There's going to be a fight. He's not wrong. Moments later, the air is split by the sound of a shout, a single word, carried across the yard like a signal. And then, chaos. 2 Crips gang members charge toward a Sureno, fists flying in a brutal assault. It's not just a fight, it's a calculated attack, a challenge to the Surenos' dominance. The moment the first punch lands, everything goes into overdrive. Inmates scramble, some to watch, others to take sides. It's a free-for-all, the raw energy of violence filling the yard. The guards are nowhere to be seen, or perhaps they're choosing to turn a blind eye. Either way, it's the inmates who control the moment. Marcus's heart pounds as he watches the scene unfold. He's seen fights before, but this feels different. This isn't just a clash between 2 individuals, it's the start of something bigger. A fight that, if left unchecked, could escalate into a full-blown riot. The gangs are testing each other, pushing the boundaries of what they can control. And Marcus is right in the middle of it. He's not sure what to do at first. Should he step in? Should he just watch? But then, as the fighting intensifies, he sees it, a shift in the way the Surenos are moving. They're rallying around their own, pushing back against the Crips, but they're also keeping a wary eye on the Bloods. This isn't just a fight between 2 gangs, it's a delicate balancing act between all of them. The Surenos have the most to lose, but the Crips and Bloods are not far behind. And then, just as quickly as it began, the fight ends. The guards rush in, breaking up the chaos, and the inmates are herded back to their cells. But the damage has been done. The tension is now more than palpable, it's undeniable. There's a shift in the air. A promise of things to come. And Marcus knows that this fight is just the beginning. The true power struggles haven't even begun yet. The aftermath, understanding the price of survival. Later that night, as Marcus sits in his cell, the weight of the day's events crashes down on him. The air is thick with the smell of sweat and the faint echo of distant arguments. The other inmates in his cell block are restless, whispering among themselves, their eyes darting back and forth, as if anticipating the next explosion of violence. Miguel visits him again, this time with a more serious look on his face. "You saw what happened today?" he asks, his voice low. "That wasn't just a fight. That was a message. A test. The gangs are pushing their limits. Testing their power. You think this is a game? In here, there are no games. There are only winners and losers." Marcus nods, feeling the weight of Miguel's words sink in. He's not just a survivor now, he's a player in this brutal system, where loyalty means life, and weakness means death. To survive, Marcus must understand the rules, rules that are written in blood and reinforced by violence. The next morning, as the cell doors open for breakfast, Marcus feels the weight of the decision he made settling into his bones. He's chosen a side. And now, he has to prove he belongs. The fight for control, gangs, influence, and the price of loyalty. Marcus Hale can feel the weight of the decision pressing on him with every passing minute. His choice to align with the Surenos has not come without consequences, and while the protection they offer is real, the price of that protection becomes more apparent each day. The gangs don't just control the yard, they control every part of life within LA County Jail, from the meals served to the distribution of resources, to the very air that inmates breathe. And now, Marcus is part of that web, an unwilling participant in the complex politics of power, survival, and loyalty. It's been a few weeks since he made his decision, and the landscape of his existence inside the jail has already shifted. At first, it seemed like a small move, a handshake, a nod of agreement from one Sureno to another. But now, Marcus understands that loyalty isn't just about affiliation. It's about proving yourself in every moment. There are no small moves in this place, and each action Marcus takes either solidifies his place in the gang or puts him at risk of being discarded. In LA County Jail, loyalty is earned, not given. It's a currency that's more valuable than gold and twice as dangerous. The Surenos are a powerful faction, but they're not invincible. The Crips and the Bloods, their long-standing rivals, are always lurking, waiting for an opportunity to challenge the Surenos' dominance. That tension is palpable in the yard, where gangs are constantly eyeing each other, looking for weaknesses to exploit. Marcus has already seen how fragile the peace can be, how easily a small incident can spiral into a full-blown conflict, a riot that could engulf the entire prison. It happens on the yard one afternoon. The breaking point, tensions explode. Marcus is sitting near the corner of the yard, a place he's come to think of as neutral ground, when the first sign of trouble emerges. It's subtle at first, a few whispered words exchanged between two inmates, their heads low, their eyes darting around nervously. But Marcus knows better than to ignore the signs. The gangs are always watching each other, always calculating who's making moves and who's standing still. And right now, something is off. The Crips are on the far side of the yard, their blue bandanas fluttering in the wind like flags of war. Marcus watches as they begin to gather in small groups, talking in hushed tones. They're making plans, Marcus can feel it in the air. And sure enough, it doesn't take long before one of the leaders of the Crips steps forward, a tall man with a scar running down his left cheek. He raises his hand, signaling to his crew that it's time to move. Without warning, the Crips charge toward the Surenos. Marcus's heart begins to race. He's seen this before, two factions clashing in a violent confrontation, each side trying to assert its dominance over the other. It's a ritual, one that happens over and over again in this place. But this time, Marcus isn't just a spectator. He's part of the Surenos now, and when the Crips make their move, he knows that he's going to have to act. The yard erupts into chaos. Fists fly. Bodies collide. Shouts of anger and fear fill the air as the inmates scramble to assert their dominance. Marcus can see the familiar patterns emerging, the Crips trying to push their way into the Surenos' territory, the Surenos defending their ground, their backs pressed against the walls, refusing to let the other gang take control. For a moment, Marcus hesitates. His body is frozen, caught between the instinct to fight and the urge to stay out of the line of fire. But then he sees it, the Crips leader, the one with the scar, coming toward him. He's no longer just a gang leader, he's a target, and Marcus knows it. The Crips leader is making his way toward the Surenos' side, trying to break through their lines and force them into submission. In that moment, Marcus's training takes over. He steps forward, his body moving before his mind can fully catch up. He's not a soldier, not a warrior, but in this world, everyone plays a part in the game of power. He reaches the Crips leader before the man can get any closer. The confrontation is quick, brutal, a fast exchange of punches, a grapple, and a shove that sends the Crips leader stumbling backward. But Marcus doesn't stop there. He knows better than to show hesitation. In a place like this, hesitation is seen as weakness. The moment you falter, you're done. So, with a quick move, he grabs a hold of the man's shirt, pulls him to the ground, and delivers a blow to his chest that leaves the Crips leader gasping for air. For a moment, everything goes quiet. The noise from the yard fades into the background, and all Marcus can hear is the sound of his own breathing. He's done it, he's taken control of the situation. And in that moment, he feels a surge of power, the taste of victory. But he knows it's fleeting. There's always another battle waiting, another challenge, another enemy lurking in the shadows. The Crips leader doesn't get up right away. His crew watches, waiting for their cue, but when they see the leader struggling to breathe, they hesitate. That hesitation is enough to turn the tide in Marcus's favor. The Surenos rally behind him, their strength now united in defense of their territory. With one last push, the Crips fall back, retreating to their corner of the yard. The aftermath, power, loyalty, and the price of survival. The yard falls silent after the clash, the echo of the fight lingering in the air. Marcus stands there, his fists clenched, his body tense from the adrenaline that's still coursing through him. He's not sure how to feel, victorious, relieved, or just numb. But he knows one thing for sure, things will never be the same again. As the guards begin to sweep the yard, moving with their usual indifference to the violence that's unfolded, Marcus is approached by one of the senior Surenos, the man who had first welcomed him into their fold. The look in the man's eyes is not one of gratitude or pride. It's a look of acknowledgement. He knows what Marcus did, and now, Marcus knows that the Surenos' loyalty to him has been solidified. "You did good, kid," the Sureno says, his voice low but firm. "But this ain't over. You've made your mark, but the price of loyalty in here is high. You gotta be ready for what comes next." Marcus nods, feeling the weight of the words. He knows that loyalty in this place isn't just about following orders. It's about surviving, about proving yourself every day. The gangs in LA County Jail don't just fight for control of the yard, they fight for control of everything. And Marcus is now part of that fight. As the days drag on, Marcus begins to feel the psychological toll of what he's become. He's not just surviving anymore, he's fighting for something. He's part of a system that's designed to break you down, to turn you into something you're not. But in here, that's the only way to survive. The price of loyalty is high in LA County Jail, and Marcus knows that sooner or later, he'll have to pay it. The cost of power, dealing with betrayal and sacrifice. Marcus Hale has learned many things in the short time he spent inside LA County Jail, but none of them were as harsh as the lesson he learned today. In this place, power is everything. Power means survival. Power means protection. And power, just as quickly as it's given, can be taken away. Marcus has now realized, through his own blood and sweat, that loyalty is not a free gift, it's a debt that must be paid in full. In the dangerous game of prison politics, the cost of betrayal is high, and Marcus is just beginning to understand what that truly means. It starts on the yard, the place where most of the prison's power struggles are played out in real time. It's a typical day, hot sun overhead, the air heavy with tension as the inmates move like clockwork. The Crips and the Surenos have been relatively quiet for the past few days, each gang trying to consolidate its power after the previous week's clash. The Bloods, who've always kept to their corner, are now more active, but they're careful, watching the Surenos for any sign of weakness. Marcus has learned to keep his distance from the larger clashes. He's part of the Surenos now, and his loyalty to them is clear, but his actions have consequences, especially in a place like this. Power is not only gained by what you do, it's also gained by how you play the game. But today, things feel different. There's a shift in the air, a kind of unease that Marcus can't quite place, but it's enough to make him wary. As the yard begins to empty after lunch, a figure catches Marcus's attention. It's Javier, a member of the Surenos who has been inside almost as long as Marcus. Javier is known for his brutal strength and his quiet nature. He's a man of few words, but everyone in the gang respects him. He's also been a mentor of sorts for Marcus, teaching him how to move through the prison without drawing attention, how to survive without showing weakness. Javier walks toward Marcus, his steps slow but deliberate. There's a look in his eyes that makes Marcus uneasy, a kind of intensity that doesn't match the usual calm demeanor Javier wears. "Marcus," Javier says, his voice low, barely audible over the noise of the remaining inmates in the yard. "We need to talk." Marcus's stomach tightens. He can tell by the way Javier's eyes flick around the yard that something's off. Something's about to happen. A test of loyalty, the betrayal unfolds. Javier leads Marcus to a quieter corner of the yard, away from the watchful eyes of the other inmates. The air is thick with tension, and for a moment, Marcus wonders if this is a test. The Surenos have a way of keeping you on edge, testing your loyalty to the point where every move you make feels like it could decide your fate. What's going on? Marcus asks, trying to keep his voice steady. His heart is racing. He's been in the game long enough now to know that when the leader calls you aside, it usually means bad news. Javier looks at him, his face serious, and then leans in close. There's been a problem, he says, his words clipped. One of our own, Hector, has been running his mouth. He's been talking to the Crips, giving them information. Marcus's mind races. Hector. He's one of the newer Surenos, but Marcus hasn't heard any talk about him being a liability. He's surprised by the news. Hector's betrayal isn't something Marcus ever expected. But then again, in LA County Jail, anything is possible. Betrayal runs deeper than just crossing the lines of loyalty, it's a currency that buys and sells people's lives. How do you know it's true? Marcus asks, his voice steady even though his gut is churning. We have eyes everywhere, Javier says, his tone sharp. The Crips have been offering him protection in exchange for information. He's been helping them gather intel on our movements, who's weak, who's strong, what we're planning. Marcus feels a cold shiver run down his spine. Betrayal like this isn't just a breach of trust, it's a threat to the entire Sureno faction. If Hector is really feeding the Crips information, it's a matter of life and death. The balance of power in the yard is fragile, and if the Crips have inside knowledge, they could tear the Surenos apart. What are we going to do about it? Marcus asks, his voice low but tinged with the urgency of the situation. Javier doesn't respond right away. He takes a long look at Marcus, his eyes hard, and then he nods. We need to handle this quietly. But we can't just let it slide. Hector's been making moves in the shadows, and now it's time for him to face the consequences. Marcus nods, understanding the unspoken message. The code of the Surenos is clear, loyalty is everything. Betrayal is unforgivable. And in a place like LA County Jail, betrayal isn't just a matter of trust, it's a matter of life and death. The price of power, a moment of decision. The rest of the day passes in a blur of activity. Marcus's mind races as he tries to process everything Javier has told him. The thought of Hector's betrayal gnaws at him, but he knows that the Surenos are a family. And like any family, when one member threatens the safety of the whole, the only option is to remove the threat. That night, after the inmates have been locked into their cells, Marcus lies awake on his narrow cot, staring up at the cracked ceiling. The sound of distant shouting echoes through the building, a constant reminder that the violence never stops in LA County Jail. His mind is a whirlpool of thoughts, but there's one question that dominates all the others: how far will the Surenos go to protect their power? How far will Marcus go to prove his loyalty? A message of power, the execution. The next day, Marcus is called to the yard again. The tension is palpable, thicker than before, and Marcus feels it in his bones. The Surenos have made their move, and Marcus knows that it's his turn to step up. Today, the price of loyalty will be paid. The air in the yard is thick with unease as the gang members begin to gather, their eyes darting nervously from one to another. Everyone knows that something is about to happen. Javier steps forward, his eyes scanning the yard. He's holding a small, folded piece of paper in his hand. Marcus knows what it is without even having to look. It's the order. The decision has been made. Gather round, Javier calls, his voice firm but laced with authority. The Surenos begin to move toward him, their faces serious, their steps measured. Marcus follows, his heart pounding in his chest. The moment is coming, and it's coming fast. When the group is assembled, Javier speaks again, his words cold and direct. Hector has betrayed us, he says, his eyes scanning the faces around him. He's been feeding the Crips information, and now he has to pay the price. Loyalty is everything. Betrayal has no place in our ranks. The words hang in the air, heavy and final. Marcus watches as the others begin to nod, their expressions grim but resolute. The decision has been made, and the Surenos are united in their response. There's no room for mercy here. No room for hesitation. The message must be sent. Javier's eyes lock with Marcus's, and for a brief moment, Marcus feels the weight of the decision. He knows what's about to happen, and he knows that, as part of the Surenos, he has a role to play. He steps forward, his pulse racing, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts. Javier gives a small nod, and with that, the decision is carried out. It's swift, brutal, and calculated. Hector, the man who once walked among them, is dragged to the center of the yard. The other inmates watch, their eyes filled with a mix of fear and anticipation. There's no hesitation, no second thoughts. The price of betrayal is paid in full. The aftermath, a new reality. As the dust settles, Marcus stands in the middle of the yard, his heart still racing from what he's just witnessed. The Surenos have made their point. Hector's betrayal has been avenged, and the power of the gang remains intact. But Marcus knows that this is only the beginning. The moment is over, but the weight of it lingers. Loyalty has been tested, and the price of survival has been paid. In LA County Jail, Marcus has learned that nothing is ever truly safe. The gangs may rule the yard, but even within their ranks, power is always shifting, always changing. One betrayal can destroy everything. And in this world, loyalty isn't just about trust, it's about survival. The price of loyalty, trust, survival, and the final choice. The sun rises over LA County Jail, casting long, sharp shadows across the yard. The sounds of clanging metal, the harshness of shouted orders, and the murmurs of the inmates fill the air as the morning routine kicks into gear. Marcus Hale wakes up early, his body still sore from the events of the previous day. The brutal execution of Hector, the betrayer, hangs heavy on his mind. It's not the first time he's witnessed such violence, but this time it's different, this time, he's part of it. The sense of unease in his stomach doesn't go away. The price of loyalty is steep, and Marcus is beginning to realize just how steep it truly is. In LA County Jail, where power is determined by your alliances, the consequences of every decision are amplified tenfold. Hector's betrayal has been dealt with, but Marcus knows that in this place, survival is never guaranteed. He steps out of his cell, the clang of the metal doors ringing through the hallway as the guards move down the rows, checking each door. The cold, harsh concrete of the corridor is as familiar as ever, but today, it feels different. Today, Marcus knows that the true cost of his choice is just beginning to unfold. The calm before the storm, a shift in power. Marcus heads for the yard, his footsteps slow but purposeful. He's already feeling the weight of the decision he made, joining the Surenos, aligning himself with the gang in a place where loyalty is everything. The moment he saw Hector being dragged out, his life shifted. It's not just about surviving anymore. It's about knowing that everything he does, every move he makes, is now a reflection of the loyalty he swore to the Surenos. He is no longer an individual in this place, he is part of a system that thrives on power and control. As Marcus walks through the yard, he observes the subtle shifts that have begun to take place. The Surenos are still in control, but things are starting to feel tense. The Crips and Bloods, who had been quiet after the incident with Hector, are starting to stir again. Marcus can see the subtle signs, shifting glances, whispers in the corners. There's a growing sense of unrest in the air, and Marcus knows that it's only a matter of time before it erupts into something bigger. The Crips and Bloods are watching the Surenos closely now, waiting for a mistake, waiting for an opportunity. The delicate balance of power is teetering on the edge, and Marcus knows that one wrong move could set everything into motion. As he walks further into the yard, his eyes catch the gaze of Miguel, one of the senior Surenos. Miguel is watching him with a quiet intensity, his expression unreadable. Marcus feels the weight of his gaze, the silent expectation that he will continue to prove himself, that his loyalty is not just a one-time gesture, but a commitment. The Surenos may have offered him protection, but they expect much more in return. "You've seen what happens to those who betray us," Miguel says, his voice low and cold as he steps up beside Marcus. "You've earned your place in the ranks, but now you need to understand that loyalty doesn't stop with one act. It's a daily test. The moment you show weakness, you're gone. And trust me, in here, you don't get second chances." Marcus nods, trying to mask the unease that rises in his chest. He's heard this before. He's seen what happens to those who falter, those who slip up and make the mistake of showing fear or hesitation. There are no second chances in this place. Loyalty is absolute. And Marcus knows that, in the blink of an eye, everything he's worked for can come crashing down. The Surenos' territory, life on the edge. The next few days are filled with tension. The gangs are making their moves, testing the limits of their power. The Surenos maintain their dominance in the yard, but there's an underlying current of fear, a fear that Marcus feels creeping into his bones. He watches as the Crips make calculated moves, circling the edges of the Surenos' territory, testing the waters. The Bloods, too, are becoming more active, their eyes focused on any sign of weakness in the Sureno ranks. Marcus can feel the pressure mounting, but he does his best to stay focused. Every day in LA County Jail is a battle. Every interaction is a negotiation. Every conversation is a power play. In this place, you don't just survive, you fight for every inch of ground you can gain. And Marcus knows that in order to maintain his place with the Surenos, he has to stay one step ahead. He can't afford to make mistakes. But the pressure is starting to crack his resolve. He sees the men around him, hardened criminals, gang members who have been in and out of the system for years. They know the game. They've learned how to navigate the chaos, how to survive the violence, the corruption, and the betrayal. But Marcus is still learning. He's still figuring out the rules, and every day feels like a test of his strength, his will, and his loyalty. The cracks in the system, trust and betrayal. One afternoon, as Marcus is walking to the mess hall, he notices something that catches his eye. A few inmates from the Bloods have gathered near the fence, talking in low voices. They're not making any overt moves, just observing, waiting. But there's a sense of quiet menace in the air, a sense that something is about to happen. Marcus knows better than to ignore it. He's been in the system long enough to understand that these small moments of tension can lead to something much bigger. The Bloods are biding their time, watching the Surenos, waiting for the right moment to strike. Marcus can feel the eyes of the gang members on him, assessing him, wondering where his loyalty truly lies. As he makes his way past the group, one of the Bloods, a man with a scar running down his face, looks directly at him. It's a challenge, a question without words. Marcus keeps his eyes forward, but he can feel the weight of the gaze on his back. The moment passes, but the feeling lingers. He knows that this is the beginning of something bigger than just the yard. The gangs are starting to stir, and Marcus is caught in the middle. The tension continues to build throughout the week. The Surenos are making their moves, but they're careful. They know that one wrong move could ignite a full-blown war. And in this place, a war means more than just a fight, it means bloodshed, chaos, and death. Marcus can feel the weight of the responsibility pressing down on him. He's not just part of a gang now, he's part of a war. A dangerous alliance, the offer. Later that week, Marcus receives an unexpected visit. It's from Miguel, the senior Sureno who has become his mentor in this place. Miguel has always been a man of few words, but today, there's something different in his demeanor. He's tense, his eyes scanning the room as if looking for threats, even in the confines of his own territory. "Marcus," Miguel says, his voice low and steady. "There's something you need to understand. The Surenos aren't just a gang, they're a business. A business that's built on power, loyalty, and trust. But business is always changing. And right now, we're being tested. The Crips are making moves, and the Bloods are eyeing us. We need to be ready for what's coming. Marcus listens closely, trying to absorb everything Miguel is saying. He knows that the stakes are higher now. The gangs are moving in different directions, testing the power dynamics in the jail. But there's something else in Miguel's words, something that makes Marcus pause. There's an opportunity, Miguel continues, his voice dropping even lower. A way for you to prove yourself, to show that you're not just another pawn in the game. We're looking for someone to make a move, someone who can take charge and earn the respect of the other gangs. If you're interested, I can make it happen. Marcus's mind races. He knows what Miguel is offering, a chance to rise in the ranks, to prove that he belongs, to show that he's not just a follower. But the cost of that opportunity is high. The loyalty of the Surenos is absolute, and Marcus knows that if he accepts, it will mean sacrificing everything he's worked for. Think about it, Marcus, Miguel says, sensing the hesitation in his voice. This is your chance to take control, to make a real difference in this place. But it comes with a price. You'll have to make a choice. Marcus knows what that choice is. In LA County Jail, every move has consequences. Every decision could be the difference between life and death. And the cost of loyalty is higher than ever. The moment of decision, a choice that will define his future. The following days are filled with uncertainty. Marcus spends his time walking the yard, listening to the whispers of the other inmates, feeling the eyes of the gang members on him. He knows that the decision he makes will define his future in this place. The opportunity Miguel offered is tempting, but it comes with a price that Marcus isn't sure he's ready to pay. As the tension between the gangs continues to rise, Marcus finds himself at a crossroads. The weight of the decision presses on him, but he knows that in a place like this, hesitation is dangerous. The gangs are already watching him, waiting for him to make a move. And soon, the moment will come when he'll have to decide which side he's truly on. The gates of LA County Jail close behind Marcus Hale *, but the sound lingers in his ears long after. The decision to align with the Surenos has brought him a fragile sense of protection, but at what cost? In this brutal system, survival is never free. Loyalty is a debt that must be repaid in full, and the price of betrayal is paid in blood. In the world of gangs, violence, and power struggles, trust is a currency you can't afford to lose. Every move is a gamble. Every decision, a risk. And for Marcus, the true test is just beginning. Will he continue to rise, or will the weight of his choices crush him like so many before him? In LA County Jail, time doesn't heal, it hardens, it breaks, and it demands more than you can give. But in the end, the price of loyalty, survival, and power in this world is one that only those willing to sacrifice it all can truly understand. As Marcus moves forward, his journey through the system will be marked by the choices he makes, the alliances he forms, and the price he pays for the decisions that define him. The story of survival in LA County Jail is not just a fight for life, it's a fight for the soul. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more stories like Marcus, where choices shape destinies and survival is the ultimate battle, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your voice matters. The darkness of the prison system is far from over, stay tuned.